Hi, I'm Laurel, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how to give a speech. And this is important whether it's for a class or in your career, and you're definitely going to have to give a speech at some point. So I'm just going to walk you through the basic steps of what you should be doing in order to be successful. So the first step in giving a speech is to choose a topic. And it's important that this topic is relevant to the audience that you're presenting it to, because if you're talking about writing an essay to get into college in front of a bunch of lawyers, that's not going to be relevant to them, so they're not going to be interested. So you need to pick something that's relevant to the audience, but that's also passionate for you and you're passionate about it, because if you're not passionate about it, the audience is going to be able to tell, and they're going to think, if the person speaking about it doesn't even care, then why should I care? So that's the number one step in preparing to give a speech. The second step is to develop a statement of central idea, and although this sounds fancy, all it really means is to make a statement about the goal you are setting for the speech and what you want the audience to get out of it, in addition to what you're basically going to be talking about and how you're going to present this argument. So this is just a statement so that the audience knows what your main idea is and how you're planning to get it across. The third step, and this is one of the most important steps in preparing for a speech, is to do research. So you should just collect a lot of facts, statistics, and you can also include personal stories that are relevant to you. And this is just to make sure that your argument is valid, especially if you're giving a persuasive speech. Because if you're presenting something and you just say, oh, my friend Joe said this, that's not very credible, and so your audience is not likely to believe you or to be convinced that what you're saying is true. So it's important that you collect facts and things like that from credible sources and implement them appropriately into your speech. The next step is to reflect back on the statement of central idea and just make sure that the evidence that you've collected is actually supportive of your idea. Because although you may have facts and statistics and things like that, if it's not supportive of the point you're trying to make and it's just in there randomly, it's not going to be relevant and the audience is not going to see the connection. So just make sure that your statement of central idea matches the evidence that you've collected through your research. The fifth step is to organize the speech. Now, there are several ways to organize a speech, and all of them include making subtopics, which is usually about 3 subtopics included in a speech. And there's several ways of organizing it, such as time-wise, spatial-wise, cause and effect, or topical. And these are just a few of the ways. So you should pick the way that's most fits the points that you're trying to present, and a way that makes logical sense. And you also want to keep in mind that you want to make smooth transitions between the subtopics so your audience doesn't get confused and your argument's easy to follow. The sixth step is to prepare necessary aids. So these can include aids such as graphs, charts, pictures, but can also go as far as video clips or sound clips. So if you're talking about a TV show or a movie and it's really helpful to see an actual clip of what you're talking about to support your argument, then it's really helpful to implement that. But if you're doing a research presentation and you have different experimental groups and you're trying to help the audience see how you're going to do your project, it's helpful to have a chart or a timeline or things like that. So you just want to keep that in mind and pick the most relevant type of visual aid. And you can definitely have more than one visual aid. The next step is to develop your intro and conclusion. The intro is very important because it's the first thing that the audience sees when they're hearing your speech. So you want to keep it short, but you also want to keep it very snappy and make sure that it hooks the audience. So this could be an emotional story that relates to your topic and gets the audience involved, or it could be a rhetorical question, or it can be an action question that actually gets the audience involved and on their feet. So just make sure that you have a good introduction, because that's going to set the stage for how the audience is going to listen to you for the rest of your speech. And then for the conclusion, make sure that you summarize all the points and represent them in a way that's relevant to the audience, because that's going to be the last thing that your audience hears, so you want to make sure that that's really good too. And the 8th step is to just go back and reflect on your introduction and conclusion and make sure that these are all really good and all the points are there and everything just flows really nicely. And if you follow all of these steps, you should definitely have a good speech. The one other step I'm going to add is just make sure you practice your speech, because you may think you know how it's going to sound or how much time it's going to take, but you really don't know for sure unless you practice it at least a few times. So that's my last piece of advice to you. I hope you enjoyed listening about how to prepare and give a speech. If you follow all these steps, I guarantee you that you will be successful, whether it's in school, in your job, or just in front of a group of people. Thanks for listening.